I thought about that too. Another thing when I was in the shower, pedal people. Hey, how you doing? This is Tom. I'm here at JK Not Kidding Studios, and I have something for all you pedal people here. A lot of fuzz pedals, a couple guitars. The question that I get asked a lot is, why do you have so many fuzz pedals when they all sound the same? And the answer is they don't. It's not true. They all sound different. So what am I doing now is I have 6 different pedals, 6 different families of fuzz pedal. I'm going to play through each one, talk a little bit about the nuances of each one and why they're different. Does it matter to you if I go left to right to left, or if I go in random order?
You can go in random order.
Okay. Like this one was the first one. This one kind of came out around that time. This one copied off this one. This was a derivative of that. This was kind of its own beast, and then this came later.
That right there.
Okay. First guitar I'm using today, I have this 1975 Les Paul Custom. Couple mods. We got Brandon wound humbucking pickups in here, PAF style in the neck, and a T-top in the bridge. The amp that I have today is a 1966 Ampeg Reverberocket. It is a beautiful sounding amp. It's something that we use a lot here at the studio. Very punchy, great for pretty much everything. That is mic'd up with an SM57. Everybody has one. Like, that's quintessential whether you're at Blackbird or at home. All right, so I told you a little bit about my guitar. I told you a little bit about my amp. This is just a quick kind of clean sound of what this amp is. All right, so the first pedal I have here is the Jext Telez Dizzy Tone. This is the gold version with the OC44 transistors. As many of you may know, there's a lot of versions of this large wedge pedal. I bought this one specifically. I wanted it to be more of the King Crimson style sustained sound. So that's what I was advised from the wizards there at Jext Telez. So this is kind of what that might sound like if I wanted to emulate that King Crimson sound. Neck pickup here, Les Paul. So here it is. So the Dizzy Tone is based around a tone bender circuit is what I've read. It was kind of a more elusive thing that not a lot of people knew about, and Jext Telez actually brought those back into the forefront in the last few years. If I wanted it even more exaggerated, I could roll off the tone knob on the guitar. This pedal also does, I would say, kind of a Jack White type sound pretty well, garage sound, if we want. And let's say maybe kind of like this. This one is a funny one to start with because it likely has the most sounds. Like, the knobs are incredibly interactive.
Yeah.
So the way this middle knob is kind of like a bias knob, that it really changes how the other ones are active. So even though, you know, if I were to turn one all the way down, I'd have to turn the volume down. So it's like really super interactive. But now, so I have the sustain and the volume, the attack and the sustain or whatever they're called here, all the way up. And using this to kind of find my timbre. So that's kind of Velcro. And I would say, like, this is where I would kind of a raw sound, if you will. But then if I get lots of sustain. It would probably sound really fun in the room to feed back the guitar if I had the amp right up next to me too. I mean, there's a lot of harmonics in here, and you can kind of hear it when I'm just turning the knobs holding one note. There's also a little bit of gating on this when you find it in the right spot, which I happen to right here, so that's cool. Second pedal I have here is the Jext Telez Range Lord. This is based on a Range Master, which is a very famous pedal used by Eric Clapton, Brian May of Queen, Tony Iommi of Black Sabbath. Definitely more of a boost style pedal. So it kind of pushes your amp over the edge more to add the sustain. As many of you know, the treble boost is what it's called, treble booster. This one here is a NKT 275 transistor from Jext Telez. Let's kind of hear how that sounds. So we got my clean sound, as you already heard again. This pedal does not really have as much gain on tap as this last one, but here it is. It's hard to compare it to this. There was so much fuzz and sustain on this, and this kind of sounds better when an amp is hotter. I mean, this amp is kind of breaking up a little bit, but this pedal I really like stacking with others to kind of push something else over the edge or to cut through a mix a little bit more. I tend to use this a lot live. I'll have a Marshall sounding distortion pedal, and then I'll kick this on with just a little bit of gain for a solo or something, and the mid-range just like cuts right through that dense mix, adds a ton of sustain. This has 3 different toggles: low, the mid, and just the normal setting. The middle setting is what your traditional treble boost. A little bit of sounds here, see if you can see the difference. So that's your middle setting. This is more of the mid boost. More of the low. Kind of hard to hear a huge difference. I think sometimes I might change that depending on which guitar I'm using and how I want to emphasize that frequencies. But
Too much reverb on the amp.
think so? There's not much, but I can turn it down.
I can just hear a lot of the spring.
Yeah, I think the fuzzes are definitely emphasizing it.
Yeah.
The third pedal we have here is the Yardbox by Prescription Electronics Inc. This is based on a tone bender Mark II, I believe. Jimmy Page used something very similar through most of Led Zeppelin's career, and I'm really happy I got it. It's a wonderful sounding tone bender style fuzz. Very interactive knobs again, like kind of more like the Dizzy Tone. So this Yardbox, here we go. Yeah, it definitely has that, like, almost like this is full fuzz, huh? The way it kind of rolls off the bass. That's pretty gnarly. That's full fuzz. There's like a gain trim pot in a way, full up, bass all the way up. There's definitely like a rawness. There's definitely a rawness to this. I'm trying really hard to not play certain licks by a certain group. I'm trying to
say their name.
Yeah, I know, but here it is. It's pretty woolly in that setting. I think it's cool with the ability to really scoop out. So definitely the similarities between this tone bender, this dizzy tone. So you can kind of hear the lineage a bit in the way it sustains and like the rawness. I would say you would maybe put a different word on it, but to me there's like a raw, less compressed, less smooth side of it. The fourth pedal I have in this chain here is the Super Fuzz by Basic Audio, based on the Univox Super Fuzz. I don't even know if that's correct. Is it the Univox? I don't know. I know that I want the sound off the Who Live It Leads, the first Stooges album, and it where the amp sounds like it's just exploding in the best way. That's what this sounds like. Super intense. This has a bit of octave on it, so it adds a little bit of a different dimension to it, especially when you're up on, above the 12th fret area. So I'll kind of click on and off, and it's pretty subtle as far as the change. But this is a great sounding pedal, but definitely more specific. I think what it can do. Yeah, I'm trying to maybe find a nice way to say it. I don't know, maybe not. It's definitely a little bit more One Trick Pony. It sounds like your amp's exploding. It's really intense, but that's cool though. It's interesting. right, going down the line here.
What is it? Sunface?
Sunface, Fuzzface.
Oh, Fuzzface?
Yeah.
Sunface, Fuzzface?
Yeah, Fuzzface is the original one, but he calls it the Sunface. So we have the fifth pedal in the line, classic Fuzzface, Sunface by Analogman. Definitely Analogman has revolutionized what a Fuzzface can sound like and has sounded like for 20 years probably. This is a more newer version. It has the bias knob here, the Sunface knob, or as he likes to call it. These typically sound best when you have the fuzz pretty high or all the way up. The internet will tell you that Hendrix would run his really hot, fuzz all the way up, and then use the guitar's volume to kind of clean up his sound. On a lot of the live recordings, you can kind of hear that, and there is that sparkly clean that happens when you do roll down the volume on these, when the fuzz is pretty hot. You can hear that more on, I think, on some of the Hendrix records than maybe on live recording, for example. So let's hear what that sounds like. So right off, less sustain, kind of less aggressiveness, but the tone itself is really interesting, right? It's more interesting than would have been maybe just clean, for example. But this is less extreme, which I think allows it to be more musical in a lot of settings. It just adds a thickness to the sound, where some of these other ones are pretty extreme, and maybe that's how I have them set. But that's kind of the beauty, I think, of these fuzz faces. So I'm going to turn the fuzz up more. Now it's maxed out. So turn the volume up a bit more. You can see how it really starts to clean up. But it's a different kind of clean sound than if you were to just play it on a clean amp. Kind of retains the high end a little bit more. The other knob in the center is a bias knob, so I'll show you what that does. Right now it's pretty much straight up the middle. I kind of tend to like, when I run this, to turn it up a bit, a little hotter than center. It may cut a little more, and maybe be a little more aggressive. Here's all the way up now. Back to center. And then as you turn it down, it can start to get kind of Velcro-y. So, as you can hear, a lot more subtle, but I think inherently a lot more musical. Something is just missing a little bit. It feels a little flat, but maybe comparing to these other ones that had an incredible amount of gain, definitely these two and this one. I think if I were going to begin using this Analogman, or also going back to this Range Lord, I'd probably want to turn my amp up a little bit more to give a little bit more from the amp, and then have this kind of push it over a little bit more, because it just seems a little flatter to me. Still an excellent sounding pedal, definitely not saying anything negative about it, but I think this makes it on a lot of records for a reason, and that's probably why people use it, and it adds just a little bit of that extra over the top that you might be wanting. The last pedal in the chain here is the Tup Fuzz by Expresso FX in England. It's made with all old stock components and it's based on a ram's head Big Muff. The Big Muff legacy is deep. There are many versions. I know I was looking for one that would get me kind of in the King Crimson territory. I guess there's a theme here. But also, apparently David Gilmour was using ram's head Big Muff as well. So this can kind of get into that searing Pink Floyd sound, King Crimson sound, the Billy Corgan sound, the Smashing Pumpkins, that kind of thing that he was doing with his versions. The op amp is what he used. It's pretty close to this. So this pedal is cool because it has a bass and a mids boost on it. The bass boost I don't think is really super necessary, but the mids boost for sure helps a lot. These Big Muff style pedals tend to get lost in a mix. So even just playing by yourself, that mids just can help it really cut. When I had previous Big Muff style or Pink Floyd style pedals, I would have to boost them with something else to make them cut through because it'd just be too much low end. So here's a few sounds on this guy. I'll start with the mids knob off, play, hit the tone pretty much. I'll put it in the center for now. Back to the center on the tone knob, just a little bit of a so you can see the mids just kind of helps poke through. The tone knobs on these are really dramatic. So from what I understand with the Smashing Pumpkins sound, a lot of it, he would play the same lick with the tone all the way down, all the way up, and anywhere in between. And that would be helpful in creating this super dense mix. Let's see how that sounds. Alright, so you heard all these sounds so far with this Les Paul. I'm going to switch over to the Telecaster, have some fun, see what kind of interesting sounds we can get. See if there's a specific... I caught these on these cables. So I got all the sounds now through this Les Paul. I'm going to switch to the Telecaster. Oh wow, miraculously I have a different guitar in my hand. Let's see if I can find it here. Alright, I have a Nash Telecaster. They call it the T52, I believe, Blackguard. Great sounding guitar. Here's the clean sound. So here's some tones. I'm going to start kind of from the top with the dizzy tone and go probably out of order. I think that is a song. I'm trying to rip off of Black Keys.
It's back motion.
So I think I kind of like this pedal more with the Telecaster than the Les Paul. It's a little cleaner, maybe like tighter sounding, because the last setting I had on the Les Paul was this, and I feel like this guitar just being a little tighter with a single coil, it's reacting really well to this, which I think is cool. Let's see how it sounds, maybe the octave side. Please comment and subscribe if you want to see more of these types of videos. If you want more in-depth of any of these pedals or plenty other ones that we have here, let us know in the comments and we'll make them. Thanks.
That's sorry.
That's too bad. That's like one of those funny things that people like dub with YouTube.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. I looked for my extra batteries at home. I could not find them.
Batteries for what?
For those fuzz pedals. Because they're all on vintage, or not vintage, vintage style batteries. Okay, sick.